Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 29th, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every movement I make on. Now, with this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have worked for literally thousands of others, with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before I get into it, we are going to be looking at self-awareness and the universe at large. Okay, but to start with, I do see LA is in the house already. How you doing, LA? Really appreciate the support. I know things are busy on your end. They always are. We have Vibing My Reality. You are in with the gold. Hope things are going well. And Renee Andrews, you are in with the silver. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us. Hope things are enjoyably hectic for you. Emmy Tonga, you have the bronze. And I know things get real on hand for you on occasion, but something I do want to point out. Okay, no matter who comes through the door first. Yes, gold, silver, and bronze do count. Okay, I don't know what you actually think they count for, but they do. The point being, whether you're first through the door or last through the door, every single person, listener, participant in the chat room, or moderator, or support, or whatever it is, everybody is equally important. Many of you have different tasks, but all of you literally have the same one task in common. And that worked out. I think we're raining. The thing is, when I talk about these tools and I go, these are the ones I use. Well, the reality is I offer these same tools to every other member of every other species I deal with. Now, I keep listening to people go, oh, I run into all these different people, and I will not, I don't mention names very often. One of the big things I will tell you, though, okay, is I sit here quite often, I listen to what I've said, I look at the books I've written, and I go, for somebody that looks at things this well, it is amazing how confused my life can get on occasion. The reality that we have to look at is I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And it doesn't matter who talks to me. God himself wasn't perfect. I know that's sacrilegious. I got over it. How about you? Now, what we have to look at here is how do you take your life from where it is? How will self-awareness help, affect the universe at large? In a nutshell, watch what happens. Okay. If we take, that'll work. Now, there's a funny little idea, and people have made a real comedy out of it in a lot of ways. But they talk about, you take two sticks and rub them together. Now, if you take two actual, there we go. And he goes, I got over sacrilege a long time ago. We talk about rubbing two sticks to create a fire. Thing is, some people see fire as a bad thing. Some people see it as a good thing. I see it as a tool. What you do with the fire is the important factor. So how about if we get started on lighting a fire in your heart? Okay, get you excited about being about being alive, about really getting to know who you are. Now, when we look at it, is there any functional difference between you and your desire to have a happy home, to be recognized, to be, to be respected, to have food on your table, to have a roof over your head? Is there any difference between you and the guy next door or the girl next door? Does skin color or skin texture have any bearing on how important that is? Okay, same thing when we look at the animals. Realistically, do animals not, like animals of any form, do they not like to be treated properly? Take a look at your own cats and dogs, or dogs. Maybe you've got a bird that's a pet, or a lizard. Do they not respond better if you treat them decently than if you beat the heck out of them? Now, I will tell you, if you happen to be one of these people like the one I knew years ago who happened to own a black panther, okay, I'll guarantee you smack a black panther, the poor little guy's going to eat you. Okay, likelihood. Now, the reality is you get to know yourself. And this is where those 3 karmic laws come in. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay, you follow those 3 laws. Yeah, Philip, I'm presuming that was not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly there, Emmy. Pet rats are absolutely brilliant. At my worst or at my best, when I was still with my wife, I used to have 3 dogs. 3 dogs, 5 cats, and 2 rats, all at the same time, all of which were rescues. Okay. We even had a resident mouse that everybody thought we lived there. But I'm just looking at this. Phil goes, it was a small turtle-sized skateboard. I'm glad you said turtle and not necessarily tortoise. I looked at a record one day. The Galapagos tortoise had a shell from one side over the arc all the way to the other. Okay, 25 feet over the arc. Now, you get a skateboard that size, I'm thinking a tortoise is not going to do well on a skateboard. But you take a look. Now, I've looked at and I started down this road a moment ago. I take a look at all the different races that I deal with. And I literally will question myself. Am I really making this up? Or is this simply a case of taking the knowledge I've got and putting it to paper? Now, I know a lot of the information I talk about sounds absolutely bizarre. Okay, I also know that when we take a look at and when we look at the world on the whole, if and when you look in the mirror and go, this is what I like. Okay, this is what makes me happy. The more you can identify that, the less stress your life is going to go through. Okay, now, well, yeah, I got news for you there, LA. LA is going, hey, I'm envious. I follow my face using a skateboard. At 50 years old, in spite of having a bad leg, I went and taught myself how to skateboard. Okay, I got comfortable riding around in a circle with it. But I will tell you this. I keep that on my keychain. And I landed on that on this one day in particular. Punched a good-sized hole in my hip. Not a fun experience. But it was the excess strain on my knee that got me to stop. But like I said, regardless of who you are, what do we got here? Yeah. Uh-oh. When we take a look at it, whatever age you are, take into consideration your own healing rate, take into consideration your own health. But as long as you pay attention to what your actual limits are, I'm a firm believer. Figure out your limits, figure out what you're comfortable with, and push for, and push them a little further. Okay. I didn't manage to get around to removing this. Okay. I did go down, in case you hadn't noticed, I went to the barber today and got my hair cut. Okay. I've had my hair cut more in the last year than I have in the last decade. Than I did in the decade prior. When we look at it, whether you are driving around, whether you're walking, using a cane, walking on a walker, driving a car, flying a plane, flying a starship, it doesn't matter. They're just extra toys. Thanks, Ellie. And Valerie, you are in, let me see here. Wait a minute. Emmy got in with I gotta go back up. We have Renee, Emmy. I did miss that. Philip, you got in with honorable mention. And we have here Valerie. How you doing? No fairness there, Ellie. I actually didn't cut my hair. I got another young lady to do it. But whatever you're aiming at, being aware of what you're capable of and what makes you content, that is the key to getting ahead. Okay. So I'm going to be doing, I think that's right. Nope, that's not going to be done today. Oh, the barber was quite happy. She just, and I don't know if I want to call her a barber, a hairstylist. I don't care. Put whatever name you'd like. Okay, I got a haircut. The reality of it was, she did, in my eyes, she did a good enough job for what I was looking at. Because like I told her, right, I said, tidy it up, absolutely. I said, the sideburns I'm keeping, tidy them up, yes, but we're not removing them. So I'm quite content with that. Whatever you are looking at, if you're content, that's the key factor. Okay. Now, I've had a lot of setbacks in my life. I'm hoping to guide you guys through, to give you tools so that you don't this is where punctuation becomes extremely important. Sam, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Whatever it is you are aiming for, okay, remember, all you have to do is set your sights on something and then take that vision, take that image, focus on it, and put the effort into it. I've had to tell countless people from countless species, that you desire something to make. I don't care who you worship. Absolutely draw your spiritual strength or your spiritual guidance from whomever you choose, but accept one little detail. Please, if you don't get off your tail feathers and put personal effort into it, you're not getting what you're aiming for. I heard that too, Philip. I've never run into it, in all fairness. Now, I get a kick out of this. I'm not quite certain which way to go with this, but that's okay. Sam's got, what gloves do you have at home? Well, the reality is, I've got one pair of gloves I use in the winter, and they've only got 3 fingers. Okay, because this hand separates a little now. Before my stroke, it never did, which is why my gloves, I only have 3 fingers on. I find it very uncomfortable having something between my fingers. With the reality in mind, what makes you content regardless of what you're doing, regardless of your goal, time to start making it happen. Now, let me ask you this. I'm absolutely certain you all have a goal. You all have something you would like to accomplish in life. No, in all fairness, I really don't. But on the other hand, I don't have a throwing gauntlet. Where'd it go? Don't have a throwing gauntlet, but I do have a blade with a decent edge on it. Okay, no, I'm not about to try and shave with this. I'm putting this thing anywhere near my throat for a lot of reasons. You take a look at it. Now, watch very closely when I actually doesn't take that much to come that close. You'll see how steady it is. That's because I concentrate. Now, I take this. If I let my hand go, if I stop concentration, this is why I won't shave with a straight razor. You can picture why. There we go. Yeah, that's what I thought, Philip. It's funny. I took that knife. Okay, I took that knife down to my father's one day to get him to take a look at it because he had asked to see it. And I took it down. It went missing in his house for a decade and didn't show up until the day he died. Well, about a week after he died, really. Vibing is asking, let me see. Yeah, there we go. Vibing is asking, sometimes it feels like my mind is incapable of processing the greater truths of reality, although I am open to accepting them and rationalizing them. Is the human mind a barrier to gnosis? No. In all honesty, it's not a barrier per se. And I'll finish that in a half a second. How you doing there, Joseph? The human mind is a processing terminal. Okay. The fact you're open to the information is critical to understanding it. The barrier is that you're trying to understand it before you have the tools to work with. And that's a great thing. It really is. Okay. A lot of what I talk about is literally common sense. And then my mind kicks into gear and I realize I'm missing something. See, a lot of what I work with is I take a look at a system, whatever's going on, and go, okay, where's the barrier? What is the holdup that people are missing? Okay, functionally borderline. See, I keep looking at that and going, people ask me whether I've ever gone over the edge. It's like, yeah, I'm past that a long time ago. And did I miss something here? No. Okay. Now, what would you do if I told you whatever you desire to accomplish, almost without exception, you can pull off with proper focus and effort? Okay, now let us remember, okay, the big thing we have to remember, let me get started on that, not right now, is I call it the true recipe for success is literally, okay, and this boils down to, again, you gotta understand who you are, or at least accept that you don't fully get it. Okay, but success literally boils down to belief plus focused effort. you have to believe it is possible for you to accomplish it. These people that tell you, ask and you shall receive, state what you want, tell people what you need. These are counterproductive. And I will go on to explain why. Not at the end of the show. Okay, not at the end of the stream, but right now. When you look at linear thinking, the above three statements make total sense. Okay, because if you don't have it, if I don't have my pen right here in my hand, it makes sense. If I desire my pen in my left hand, it makes sense to say, hey, can you put my pen in my left hand? Okay, it's not there. This works in linear thinking, which is what you've been taught. It was the lesson I failed miserably. Okay, because in reality, we have to look at the way time works. Okay, time is a reference point for communication amongst sentient individuals. It's that simple. Okay, and by the way, yes, I know this is going to be hard to believe, but cats, dogs, snails, dandelions, stardust, they all recognize time. They all have words for time in their language, in their own languages. Okay, but when you look at it, there's an old saying that goes, today is the tomorrow you dreamt about yesterday. Okay, but today is also the yesterday you will talk about tomorrow. Meaning today, tomorrow, and yesterday are all functional parts of the world. But today is the only one you will ever accomplish anything in. Self-awareness is not something that just automatically you wake up and you get it. Okay, it just doesn't work quite that way. Whoa, how you doing? Glad you could join us. By the way, just a very direct statement right to you. Okay, I was talking to my other half, and yeah, she is absolutely willing to get together for one of the meals. She doesn't have a problem with it, like I said. But like when we're down in Reno, the reality of it is the 8th is still definitively off limits simply because we're occupied. That's her birthday. We're not sharing that with other people. Okay, same goes with the 13th, which happens to be my birthday. But when you're looking to make your life better, it is absolutely critical you look in the mirror and go, I can accomplish this. Not this issue of, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. How many people used to think, we go back into the dark ages, which some geniuses in office are trying to push people back already. Okay, we go back 100 years. And apparently, if you were female, you couldn't accomplish things. If you were black, you were less capable than if you had a different pigmentation. Okay, now I will tell you, there are limits to things. My own son, and you may know people like this. My own son he's got a mild case of CP, of cerebral palsy. His left foot and his left arm don't work properly. But get this. I can't play video games well at all. My son, when he was about 8, really desired to play on the PlayStation 2. He really desired to play on it, but he only had the one hand to work with. What did I turn around and do? I went, okay, here's a standard controller. Here's how to hold it. Here's how to play. He now will go up against people that have been playing for years with both hands, and he will beat them in things like Call of Duty or, God of War, any of these normal games. He plays with only one hand on a standard controller. I have watched people with missing limbs paint absolute masterpieces. I got all my limbs working, pretty much. And I still don't do better than a stick man. Okay. One of the neat things about it is whether you can accomplish something or not is entirely up to you and your belief and your effort. Okay. This is why this world can be turned around. Storm, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I'm Joseph. Just a bizarre thought. When you're looking at gravity and reverse engineering gravity propulsion, two things to keep in mind. One, you're probably looking at gravity as a pulling mechanism, as a pulling energy. Look at it as a push. Turn your thinking around and look at gravity as a push. That would be one of the first things you got to look at. Second thing you got to look at is literally the OTE drive, the OTE principle, the oxidation of tri-transformational equipolarity. And yes, that one I can explain. Okay, but you look at those two items, at those two concepts, and you will be able to break the gravity problem. Okay, you'll be able to generate a gravity propulsion system. And I know with your mind, you'll be able to piece it together without too much trouble. Again, it boils down to all of us have been taught the same thing. We've been taught to limit ourselves by people who were taught to limit themselves, who in turn were taught by people how to limit themselves. This is an ongoing problem. And we have to start looking in the mirror. If we're going to break this mold, we have to start questioning the creation of the mold. Why was it there? Why were you told you can't do that? Okay. Now, sometimes you get told that for a good reason. Don't put your hand in a fire. Not you can't put your hand in a fire. But putting your hand in a fire is going to, in all likelihood, cause pain. Okay. I've done that. I didn't do it because somebody said I could. Or because somebody said I couldn't. I burnt myself because I made a mistake and put my hand in the wrong place at the right time. But there are people that can literally walk on fire. Okay, they walk on hot coals. I'm telling you, if one person can do it, every one of you has the capacity to do it. But it does take a certain amount of focus and a whole pile of belief. Okay, and the reality is, if you believe you can fly, this is great. This is absolutely fantastic. Have a happy. But test your limits first. Don't start by jumping off of a cliff. Start by jumping off of a curb or off of a step stool. Okay? If you can jump off it and not hit the floor, you got a place to start. But if it doesn't work the first time, you're not going to go splat on the ground. Now, this applies to everybody. Okay? I literally remember somebody, and they took I really don't know. I don't know the weight, but take granite. And I'm sure somebody will come up with a weight here. Let's see if I can actually do that. Well, I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to do it this way. Let's see if somebody comes up with the answer, because I don't feel like looking it up. Take a granite disc, okay, 6 feet in diameter and approximately a foot deep, a foot thick. Now, anybody got any idea how much that weighs? Because I haven't got a clue. Okay, but I will tell you this. The disc in question that I know of was absolutely perfectly round. Easy to make it round. Take a center point to make 6 feet. You're looking at 3-foot radius. Take a center point, a spike. Tie a rope in the middle. drive a spike in the middle, tie a rope to it, go out to the end of a 3-foot rope, and run the circle all the way around. Okay, you do that. I know that didn't match up. But I got looking at it going, that circle is way too big. So you bring it down and you make that circle. You have a perfectly round circle. Cut it out. So you got a smooth edge. Now, that circle, that disc was laying on its side. And I know of one person in particular that with just their with their two hands, rolled that disc sideways. I can even tell you how they did it. What I can't tell you is how much weight it was. But if one person can do that, every one of you has that capacity. But you have to believe it's possible. And I will tell you, every one of the things I talk about I've done, I am absolutely convinced you too can do exactly the same thing. And you can do, like my son, you can do so much more. I taught my son how to play with a standard controller using only one hand. Okay. My brother, before he passed away, used to teach paraplegics that were stuck in wheelchairs how to go up and down stairs safely in a wheelchair with no help. Okay. It is possible, but it does take practice and it does take time to make it happen. Now, with that in mind, I'm not, from my standpoint, I'm not about to try and figure that out on a wheelchair. The way I look at it, why would I? Realistically, I'm not stuck in a wheelchair. I don't have to figure that one out. But when you go out in that other world, in that world out there beyond Earth, mankind is already out there. So these people that are telling you, if you're being told, we've not been to the moon, okay, or we haven't been back to the moon in 25 years. Question. Okay, I take virtually nothing for granted anymore. What have we got here? Oops. The neat little part about it is this: whether you believe you can or you believe you cannot, odds are you're going to prove yourself right. Okay. Now, the same applies to the off-worlders. Now, get this. Mankind keeps going, oh no, the aliens are coming. They're going to invade us. They're going to wipe us out. You know what the comical part is? There is such a thing. There is such an illness out there as, they call it human lunacy. Okay, because in the greater circle here, out in the consortium, humans are known for taking the most rational path, throwing it out the window, and landing on their feet. Doing something completely logically insane, and yet still landing on their feet. Every now and again, another member of another species will go, well, humans can do it, why can't we? There is no functional, way of telling them that they can't do it. I keep telling people, it doesn't matter where you come from. Okay, you have the capacity. Yes, that is a one-hand controller. But the one I'm referring to is the PS2, PS4, the PS5 with the two joysticks and all the extra buttons. And the reality is this: regardless of what you are, if you're physiologically capable, push your limits. Absolutely, you can get up and make things happen, but it's going to require your effort. Now, any one of you can learn to write left-handed. Okay, and this is something I've started really pushing the issue on. Okay, because the reality behind it is this: I used to be able to write left-handed until I had the stroke. Now, I'm not happy with the fact that I've got that hiccup. Just putting the knife back out of the way. You know, when we look at what you know about yourself, let me ask you this. In your eyes, do you feel, yes, a controller just like that, Philip? Thank you very much. My son, with only one hand, plays that with only one hand. And he goes up against people using two hands. Now, I will tell you, LA, I'm just looking back up here. Meditation does work to improve. There was a report of a chap in Vietnam. I believe it was Vietnam, but it may well have been Korea. He was in a POW camp. And what he did before he went to war, yeah, absolutely, Philip. Before this gentleman went to war, he never played golf, period. Okay. He may have played mini golf. I don't think that even existed. Well, no, it didn't exist at that point. So he never played golf. While in the POW camp, every night he visualized himself and he ran through it, felt the muscles twitch, felt the muscles stretch, imagined the impact of the club against the ball. Okay. And imagine himself golfing an almost perfect game. You know, so he turns around, spends 3 years in POW camp, finally gets freed, finally gets released, goes home. Okay, goes home, goes to the golf course, picks up a golf club for the first time, and goes out and plays a phenomenal game of golf. Imagining you can do something is an effective way in mentally training yourself. Same thing applies if you've got an addiction. Okay. And yes, I have already got, I think I've already got the article written. Where are we here? I'm a firm believer that sharp objects, absolutely give them to people. However, make sure you train people which side is sharp. Okay. Humans have a capacity to take a look at any situation and they will push enough buttons to make something happen. Okay. And you can test this method out for yourself. How many times you've been faced with a puzzle and gone, I'm going to fight with it. I'm going to struggle with it until I figure it out. Maybe it's a mental puzzle. Okay. Like here's a riddle for all of you. It's an ages-old riddle. Okay. And this is literally a question. I require this. Blank sheet of paper. And away we go. I'm about to ask you a riddle, and let's see if anybody actually knows. Some of you may. Okay. But here's a riddle for you. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? Okay. Figure that one out. Because that same, it's riddles like that get you thinking. And there's no reason you can't piece it together. It's an ages-old riddle. Okay. I'm just curious if anybody in the listening audience knows what it is. I know that's completely a bizarre direction to go, but what the heck? You know, the reality that we have to look at is if you... And what would the answer be there, Storm? That's one that, absolutely. Like I said, it's Storm has come back and gone, man is the answer. And to explain that, you just look at it going, when you're born, the morning of your life, when you're born, you crawl on all fours. Very few people actually get up and walk on two within the first month. It does happen, but not very often. You know, in the afternoon of your life, you're a full-grown adult, you walk freely on two legs, walk, run, jump, fall downstairs, whatever it is, you do it on two legs. In the evening, many adult humans are walking on a cane. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. I use a cane. I don't walk on it because I don't have the balance. Have you ever laid a cane down and tried walking on the thing? Doesn't work well. At least not in my eyes. You know, one of the things that I look at is when we are looking and getting to understand ourselves, know your limits, but do not accept other people's limits. You know, when somebody says you're not able to do that, take a look at the reality behind it. Is it a question of you're not able, as in you're physically not capable, you haven't been trained, or is it a case of you're not permitted? Now, there are times when somebody says you can't do that, they're referring to it being permitted. Okay. Like, for instance, you don't go running out in traffic. And Lord knows there are way too many people that do that. You know, way too many people I know of will hang on to one of these silly things, stare at it, and walk out into traffic without noticing. You want the zombie apocalypse? There you go. You want to worry about being chipped? There you go. Okay? But know what you're capable of. Now, understand, when I talk about multitasking, and everybody's capable of it, in my case, I took it to a very different extreme. Okay? I was on the horn with somebody the other day for literally 3 hours, I think. And he goes, and at the end of it, he goes, I should let you go so you can get something done. I said, oh, you misunderstand. Now, bear in mind, this was a two-way conversation. Yeah, and sometimes that's very necessary. My own sister was put on a leash when she was just a toddler. You know, something you got to realize here is when you put your mind to something, you can accomplish it. Now, like I told this guy, he says, I should let you go so you can get something done. I said, wait a minute. I said, absolutely, we got to get going anyway. But I said, while I've been on the phone, I've read parts of 3 books, written 2 articles, worked out my finances, and cleared my email while I was on the phone talking in a completely interactive fashion. This is doable. Okay. Yeah, I can relate to that. You know, LA's just going, I usually trip on the curb. You know, I've made the mistake of trying to go down, and it's my left leg or my right leg that's shot. If I try and go down and off a curb using my left leg first, I usually stumble because I got to take the weight off of the cane. And that result, the right leg doesn't work right. But that's not always the case. You know, so I just found go down left leg, go down right foot first because the cane hits the floor right at the same time as my foot does. The same thing applies to every other species I know of. Okay, now bipedal species all have the same thing, pretty much. They walk on 4 to start with, 2 in the middle, 3 at the end. Now, understand, especially with some of the more, shall we say, wilder races, you got to realize that if you can't walk, odds are you're not making it to the 3rd limb. Now, vibing, and just a quick reminder, guys, when you've got a question, please put it in all caps. It makes it easier for me to spot it. All caps, partial caps, or at least a wavy hand. Okay, but vibing is asking, is it possible to overcome all limitations of the body and what others perceive as an objective universal rule? If it is indeed true that the infrastructure of our reality is created from our beliefs. Okay, number one, yes, virtually everything that you've been taught can be overwritten, but we must be clear about one thing. Reality is a battle of wills. First and foremost, you have to believe yourself it's possible. Second of all, so of course, when it comes to what you can do with your body, okay, absolutely, virtually everything is overridable, okay, regardless of what others believe. Where it comes to belief of changing things on a macro scale that other people can bear witness to, as in modifying the physical reality, it's not just your will. It is the will and the belief of everybody else on the planet that you deal with. You have to believe that you've got to believe strong enough that their perception of reality is faltered. Now, no, in answer to that question, I do not fly yet. But you'll notice I said yet. I have memories of true flight, as in the Superman thing, you know? And I don't mean you grab one hand, you pull it down by your side, then you put your other hand out and fly. That's not the Superman thing. I get a kick out of that one, though. But you absolutely can override things. I was told as I get older, and you were probably told the same thing, that being that if once you got glasses, your eyes will falter. Well, guess what? There is a rational reason why that happens. And no, I'm not going to tell you some bizarre chemical or some bizarre cell that causes a problem. It's literally pure practical science. Okay, difference between that and what many of these scientists do, and I hesitate to call myself a scientist, by the way, is they'll tell you it's not possible. I'll tell you, here's the hiccup, here's how to change it. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, and again, this boils down to understanding your own body and your own capabilities. So, let me ask you this. Of those of you, like, how many of you, number one, wear glasses? And if you wear glasses, do you desire to keep wearing them, or would you like the cure? Okay, now this is not a guaranteed cure because it relies on your belief and your ability to focus and stay persistent to make this happen. 15 years ago, if I held my glasses right there, I could not see them. Okay, now, I will be pleased. As a matter of fact, let me get that written down to make sure I get it in there. I am in June's free newsletter. I will be putting in positive perspectives. I will give you the ISBN number and title, the whole 9 yards, as much as I've got, of the book that gave me the key to take my eyesight and start improving it. Okay, now it will deal with short-sighted or far-sighted vision. It gives you the tools. I'm living proof that the tools work. Okay, now that one I didn't write, by the way. But this one I did. Okay, this will give you the tools. This is believe in yourself and follow your dreams. This will give you the tools to get to know your limits, to figure out where your boundaries are, and subsequently change your life for what you consider the better. Okay, you go to the link at the top of the stream, okay, that says buy me a coffee. you can find all of the books I have written, and I'm starting to include other things. The free newsletter is there as well. Okay, but how many of you, LA, the book and in your case, I'll get it to you because I know you earlier. Remind me after the show. I will give you the ISBN number. The title of the book is literally The Bates Method to Better Eyesight Without Glasses. Okay, that little book gave me the key to correct my eyesight. Okay, couple that with a couple of neat little tricks in psychocellular kinesis. In other words, self-healing. And all of a sudden, eyes can be put back together. Now, this is done in conjunction with any other method you're using, as in doctors or, doctors, nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths, energy healers. Take every tool you can. They've all got part of the equation. Okay. And rest assured, if I had down pat, I'd be perfectly healthy. Okay. I've gone through some staggering annoyances. But, that is a neat part about it, is everything that is off kilter in your brain or in your body is a dis-ease. Okay. And everything required to rebuild your entire body back to a perfectly healthy body. Okay. A perfectly healthy body and sound mind is contained and provided for on Earth. All of it is. Okay. The key is figuring out what works. And to do that, talk to people that have done things that have made that happen in their lives. Okay, that's the real catch to it. Now, this applies whether you're on Earth or off the planet. Okay, now I will tell you, there are limits. As one friend of mine put it, as he was told by his father, okay, all men are not created equal, but there are equalizers. Now, in this one gentleman's case, he came from an abusive home. And he used to, his mom and himself used to get beaten daily. Okay. And I mean beaten as in big man, closed fist. Yeah, that's a big man. Closed fist and into the kid or into the mother. Okay. Well, the kid finally got to be a teenager and he come into the room and dad was beating his mom. And he comes into the room with his hands behind his back. And he looks at his father and he goes, Dad. And his dad looks at him and this kid turns around and he says, Dad, you always told me that there are, that all men are not created equal, but there are equalizers. And in that split second, this kid came around, he was 15, 16 years old, came around with a 2x4 and drove his father across the room with it. Looked at his father and goes, now, get out of the house. Leave Mom and I alone, period. Now, I do not condone violence. Okay, I understand why it happens on occasion. You have to believe it's possible. Okay, I mean, I remember sitting in a bar one day, and a guy wanted to fight me. And I'm just sitting there, and of course, I'm enjoying a drink with friends of mine. And then this guy is what comes from belief in self and probably a bit too much of shall we say, egocentricity. But the guy goes, come on, I want to fight you. And he kept pushing. I'm sitting there with two buddies. I finally looked at the guy and said, fine, meet me outside. If I'm not there in 10 minutes, start without me. And I picked up my drink. Well, don't know why, but the guy walked off. Okay, he headed for the front door. Guy drinking with me looked at me and went, you're not seriously going out there to fight him, are you? I looked at him and said, you crazy, I got a drink here. right? But, from my standpoint, really boiled down to, I didn't believe I had any reason to fight. And he apparently was too drunk to realize that I was not giving him, shall we say, a rational approach. But again, you can make the same thing happen. I don't mean you can make somebody go up and beat themselves up. But if you've got a poem, if you are striving to get published, I will tell you I'm building a way of making that happen. Okay. Dogface, long time no see. Glad to see you. I gotta ask you directly, Dogface, just because I'm curious. Okay. Are you planning on being in Reno this year? This is the first time in 4 years I will be across the border. I'm actually going to the SOR party this year. I do hope that if you're going there, I do hope to see you. If not, I can understand it. But the reality of it is this. Whether you believe you can do something, whether you believe you're capable or not, is the key factor. But the reality that we have to look at is know one thing for certain. If one person can accomplish something, anybody else can do it. Almost anybody else. Okay, let's face it. If you happen to be no doubt. That's what I did the last 2 years. Just so happens this year I've set it in motion. There are limits that you cannot overcome. Okay. I don't care how strongly you believe you're capable. If you've got no arms, you're not juggling. Okay, at least not with your arms. Now, I do remember a guy that juggled in a sense. He used to juggle. I watched him juggle ping pong balls with his mouth. What he did was he picked the ping pong ball up and blew it into the air. Okay. And then he quickly picked up another one and blew the second one in the air. And literally, that's how he juggled. He just kept popping them up with a burst of air. This is something that's remarkable to see. But not everybody has that focus. Oh, Dogface, I would explain that. I forgot you were down in Australia. One day I may make it down there, but I'm not holding my breath just yet. That's going to take a little bit more money than I've got right now. But it's a question. I got a few other flights. See, I forget what the name of it is. I don't even know if you can get there anymore. But one of the things I would like to be able to do, and it's literally on my list of things I'd like to get done, is to get down to Australia and see what I came to understand as Red Rock. Okay. I would love to get down there and see it. I don't know if I ever will. It's not been, I've never had the cash flow to be able to pull a lot of this off. Maybe in time I'll put it together. But it'll depend on whether or not it's a priority to me. And whether or not people start actually treating each other properly. I appreciate that there, Dogface. And I will, the nice part about it is I've got a list of things I am planning on doing up until this year. I really hadn't considered traveling a whole lot because I get lost so fast. It's absolutely insane. But my other half, who happens to be fully blind, also would like to see more of the world. Okay, so I've just decided that as the estate's clear, and by the way, that's starting to happen. Oh, newsflash. The estate that I've been waiting for my brother. The estate that I've been waiting to clear from my brother passing is finally starting to make headway. Okay, which is great. Now, Iowax, how you doing? Glad you could join us. What, pray tell, is the book that crawls? Okay, I'm just curious on that one. I know of a number of books that fly. You know, but that book I don't recognize. I don't think it did that, did I today? Whoops, wrong pad. This one. Written notes. See, I've got 3 clipboards I work with now because it's easier. There it is. And I have not read those. That is absolutely terrible. So we grab this. Like I said, I keep a clipboard so I can make notes when I have to. Oh, fantastic. There we are. Where we go? Back up here. LA Moon is letting us know that Uluru.com is where we will get Red Rock, where we'll be able to look at the information on Red Rock. Okay, now the book that crawls. This is something Iowax is aiming to create, but it'll run on battery. Just a thought. Absolutely build it. Okay, absolutely build it. I've got a couple of things I'm intending on having commissioned, but just a thought. Build the book that crawls, but build it as a clockwork so that it does not require modern technology to run. Okay, anything that the more, what I'm finding is the further back in time we go, as in go back to the old technologies that didn't require electricity. They worked on gears and muscle power. Okay, when you look at that and you create things like that, what you're doing is something that is completely self-sustaining. Okay, something that if there is a power failure, we don't run out of it. Okay, but again, this boils down to look in the mirror and go, how do I make this happen? Oh, see now, I took a look at that comment, the book that crawls. I'm visualizing a book, a book that actually crawls, and I figure this is a great idea. Of course, I'm twisted. Okay, I keep looking at. The more I look at it, the more that I realize, and the more I feel compelled to point out, we have a power failure. Everything we know, all the way back to the Stone Age, is gone. Okay, we have a major EMP pulse, and we are absolutely hooked as a society goes. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And because I didn't pull it open today, Philip goes, if a book I was reading suddenly started crawling, he's like, yeah, this book is haunted. That's a funny thing. And I know this is an odd setup. You can picture what my son did. Okay. I think my son was in grade 6 when he made this thing. Okay. Now, it was laying on the counter, on the shelf by his bed. Okay. Now, this is a standard hand puppet. Okay. Standard hand puppet. It's supposed to move by actually having your hand in it. But it was laying flat on his bed. On his bedside shelf. And all of a sudden, while he's in bed, wide awake, this thing does this. Well, my son grabbed it, ran into my room, threw it on my bed, and told me he didn't want it anymore. Okay, now it's never done that since. Okay, of course I did tell it to knock it off and go to sleep. But these things happen. And it's a question of whether or not you believe it's possible. So I'm going to give you another tool to show you what's possible. And it's one I'm actually working on. You know, a buddy of mine put it real simply. Where are we here? Yeah, that'd be a nice thing. Now remember, a crawling book is great. Training a crawling book may be a challenge. You know, I watched going, yeah, if the book's alive when reading it, assure you it's not when you stop. I assure you it's not when you stop. Oddly enough, assurances like that don't work all that well. But it's a great thought. That's always fun, especially if it wasn't supposed to walk. You know, but these sorts of things happen. Now, here's a neat little trick. And I don't have one here, so I'm just going to use this for an example. Okay. Now, not to worry, that's just pure salt. Okay. Well, pure, I don't know, it's table. But take a clear container. Okay. Fill it with water so that it's not to the top. Fill it so it's, about a 1/4 inch from the top. Take a wooden toothpick. Okay. Set the toothpick floating on top of the water. Now make sure you set this in this container somewhere where it's not going to get bumped. Yeah. Philip goes, dog treats work for training dogs. Cat treats work for training cats. What do you give a book? Alphabet soup? In answer to your question, Dogface, one of the eldest is now going back to school. He's actually going after, from what he's told me, he's going back to university this fall to go into water engineering. Okay, where he came up with that, I don't know, but that's where he's going. My other one, the one that does have mild CP, is now graduated and working. And of course, in my case, like I've told everybody else here, but you just haven't been here, so that's okay. In my case, I finally got my medical disability. 37 years in the coming. And I've got 7 books now in print. So things are moving forward nicely. One of the biggest things that we have to remember, everything you can imagine is possible. Honestly, Philip, I have no idea. I always thought water was simply engineered, 2 parts hydrogen, or 1 part hydrogen, 2 part oxygen. Okay. Or is it 1 part oxygen, 2 part? Maybe it's 1 part hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen. I really don't know. I know the chemical formula is H2O. But at this point, I forget which is which. I'm guessing it has to do with systems and making sure the water goes where it should, much like the old aqueduct systems went. But I will tell you, as you get to know yourself, as you come to realize that most of your limits are self-imposed, you will be able to overcome them. And absolutely, if you desire to overcome something that you're having trouble with, I have been. Now, I am not a licensed financial advisor. I've never been trained. But I'll tell you, 60 years of making stupid moves, you hope you learn something. Okay, so bankrupt twice, gone through years of therapy trying to understand how to deal with my abilities, not the least of which was the abductions I was dealing with. Okay, where it comes to getting your works in print, I absolutely have figured out how to do that. I've got 7 books in print. Might indicate I've done it. Okay, whatever it is you're aiming for, it is time to figure out what makes you happy, what makes you content, not what everybody else says will make you happy. And before you get down that really twisted road, no, sorry, in my experience, nothing is predestined. You are not on a path that says you will only go, you have to go down this road. Humans have a staggering capacity to take a look at a path they're told they have to go down and go a totally different direction and still make it. Okay, this is something that you have the heritage to make happen. Now I'm going to throw a wrench and a half into things. Most people have heard the story of Adam and Eve. Whether you believe the story or not is not a point here. Okay, but the thing that I would like you to consider is this. Were Adam and Eve created? Take the story for face value. Go, yeah. But they were not the only ones created. They were the ones, in my experience, that were focused on. Simple as that. Okay. Now, I was gifted with a course in theoretical genetics when I was in high school, which is really weird when you think I got diagnosed mentally retarded as well. Okay, but genetically, if there were only 2 people and they were the only 2 that started, then I don't care how many kids they had, the human race would have bred itself into extinction. As it is, they've done a pretty bang up job in breeding the intelligence into the necessity to create artificial intelligence. Because sad to say, true intelligence, what they call one of the most uncommon things in existence, common sense, have been trained out of people. Okay, these are both revivable. And it's time to go through the revivification process and really help people see that the limits you've got in front of you, the misunderstandings you have of your own capabilities. What would you do if I told you that probably as much as 90% of your limitations can be overridden and trained back into an ability? Okay, where you don't have to be stuck with the idea of, I no longer have the energy to get up and go. I no longer have the health or the lung capacity or the eyesight to do things. What would you do if I told you without medication? Now, understand something. If you're on medication or you're under the care or guidance of an actual doctor, absolutely utilize what I'm about to tell you in conjunction with what you've been told. Okay, this is just another tool. It is not a replacement. Okay, but what would you do if I told you that virtually any limit that you've got, as long as the organ is either there or it's workable around? Okay, most of your limitations can be corrected. It's a question of whether you believe it's possible and whether you talk to somebody that's done it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Dogface. I hope you've got my contact information. Absolutely, drop me a line. The reality of it is, when I look at the limitations I put on myself, what do we get? Well, that's just it. See, that goes way back, but that is correct there, Philip. Adam and Eve were the two people that are purportedly focused on in the creation story. Okay, absolutely. But we got to remember that, yeah, there's no doubt in my heart the humans were created here. Evolution played a part. By the way, you'll love this one. The way mankind got to its current state: creation, evolution, and genetic enhancement combined to bring us to where we are. Okay, very important little factor to keep in mind, because literally everything is connected. Just like your two fingers, you'll notice they're on different hands. They are connected. Okay, the fact that you happen to be here listening to me, and or you're listening to something else, and I'll put it to you this way: got into a conversation with my little brother years ago, and he goes, Keith, what do you say? What do you think of this? Maybe I am God. I looked at him and I said, not possible. He goes, oh, no, hear me out. I said, no, you don't understand. Our other brother has already claimed that title. Okay, but little brother went on to go and to say this, and think of this, it's a mind bender. Okay, he goes, no, seriously, if God can do anything, okay, then what's to say that I did not create my own body right here in the form of what I am, and I programmed myself to forget everything I knew, forget completely the fact that I was God. Okay, but at 30 years old, all of a sudden that memory line, that fog is going to lift. It's going to lift. I've already programmed it that way. So at 30 years old, I programmed it so that I would remember I'm God. Okay, but I did that to feel what it felt like to be in a human body. Now, think about this. Is that possible? What do we got here? I always get a kick out of this. LA comes up with some phenomenal information. Evelyn is Hebrew for life, which is great. Now, of course, I got to ask, because it's just a rational question. LA, if you know, what was the name Adam? Where did Adam, the name, come from? And if you know, what did it originally mean? It's just one of those neat little pieces of information I look at going, how does it fit? The neat part about it is everything that I'm talking about, everything I've been through, absolutely you could have, Philip. Fortunately, it didn't work out quite that way. But it was an interesting conversation. Now, what I'm bringing back to the world, and I've done this multiple times over the years. Oh, there we go. Thank you, LA. So we have Adam and Eve, meaning life. Well, technically, we have from the soil, life. Which really, when you think about it, the theory is, and this part I will tell you, accurate as I can confirm, mankind was originally formed of earth, of dirt. Okay, but it wasn't just one individual. Okay, it wasn't just one. Okay, it's just they only focused on one. Now, what would you do if I told you whatever goal you have, whatever self-imposed or imposed hold up you've got? What would you do if I told you it is very possible to override most of them? There we go. You know, I get a kick out of the whole 9 yards because when we look back in history, now you can't go back and change anything, but you can certainly learn from what was done. There is an old saying that goes, whether that goes, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Okay. Well, that's the same as those that don't learn from their mistakes. But the problem is, and what you're not told, is those that dwell on history have exactly the same problem. Philip, that was just terrible. But yes, man had a dirty mind. But you'll notice that man had a dirty mind. Men and women literally think the same way. They simply express it differently. But that's societal training. Okay, there are certain things that absolutely hold true. Okay, that being physically speaking, men are physically speaking, genetically, they are on the whole stronger than women. Okay, now let's not get on this idea of I'm a woman, I can be as strong as I want to be. I don't really care. You absolutely can. And some of the best chefs in the world, some of the best homemakers in the world are male. Okay, I'm not one of them. I'm also not super strong. Okay, well, maybe smell-wise, but I don't know. But, would you believe, what would you say if I told you it was possible to change everything about you, to become as successful as you can possibly imagine? Okay, I finally got word from a number of things all of a sudden fell into place. Okay, I've been waiting for word that my medical records are ready to go. Won't be tonight, it'll probably be tomorrow, that I will be phoning to get my medical records sent to me. Okay, simply because I desire them and I don't have a regular doctor anyway. Not anymore. But I've got to go and sort that out, which is very important. So what I'm looking at is get to know who you are, because I will tell you this. Whether you are human or a different species, doesn't matter. What you are capable of is almost unlimited. Now, I will warn you, the comics, as in Marvel and DC, they've done some beautiful work, a lot of imagination. Theoretically possible. I'm not holding my breath expecting somebody to physically turn into a great big hulking monster or to suddenly pop adamantium claws. Where are we here? But the reality of it is, whatever you're working on, whatever your goal, whatever that thing is you'd like to accomplish in life, it's time to look in the mirror and get a handle on it and start making it happen. Now, I had a dream. I had a desire when I was a kid. I told people quite readily, I desire to get off this planet. I've done that in spades. Okay. What I forgot to mention was I don't desire to come back. Yeah. LA goes, it is my opinion that men are far more proficient in that activity. And men quite often can be. Okay. The reality is, and I've always held this, behind every successful male is a really pushy woman. Okay. Now, do not get me wrong. I do not mean controlling. I mean somebody that will look at you and go, I know you can do it. I'll stand beside you. That said, every successful woman has a successful partner as well. And by the way, that should have been phrased that way right from the get-go. Sometimes it's a stranger. A simple comment from a stranger can help. Sometimes it's a relative. Okay. It just boils down to one thing. Whether or not you believe it is possible to make things happen. And when you're out there, okay, those of you who have been in the military are more than aware of this. You get put in a situation, you will figure out how to make it happen. This applies to every species out there. And this is one of the reasons why some humans are getting to get to the consortium. I've been to the flagship, I've seen what they've got. And this is why I say mankind, when they go, oh, the off-worlders are getting ready to invade. Not going to happen. Okay. If it was going to happen, we'd already be dead in the water. But there is so much that is available to you. We can take, working together, this entire world the way it is, with the varied peoples upon it. We can work together and make this a better world for virtually everybody. And it boils down to do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Be true to yourself first. And energy out, energy in. You follow those 3 karmic laws. You will find your life changes in a hurry. For more specific details, this is what I'm working on here. Okay. Now, this one deals with your personal drive. Let's not move that close. This one deals with your personal drive. This one, believe in your business and follow your dreams, is key component to take your business, whether it is running a household, running a small family-based business, running an international, global, intercontinental business. Doesn't matter. The principles in here still apply. Okay. And then whether you've got $2 or 20 million or anything else, okay, this will give you the tools to actually make the most use of that. How can I say that for certain if I'm not on top of the world already? Well, I only got on top of the world a week ago. Okay. And I appreciate the heads up there, LA. I only got my head on straight going, hanging on to the anger, to the bitterness of what I've seen this world do to itself, what I've seen the peoples of this world, the ones claiming to be spiritual guides, going, I'm here to lead you to a better world, to a better life. Fear, shortage. Oh, I will cover that in half a second there, Philip. Here's the spiritual guideline. I'm going to lead you to a brighter tomorrow. I'm going to lead you to paradise. But you're going to fear everything you look at. You're going to know that the guy that created you could snuff you out like that if you do not pander to his egocentricity. Okay, I'm going to lead you to a world of abundance if you give me everything you've got. I'm not going to do any of that. Okay, granted, you want to send me money, I'm not going to turn it down. You don't send me money, God doesn't want me. He sent me back. That's obvious. Okay, God keeps shipping me back, and Satan's afraid I'm going to take over. So, now, about a week ago, Philip, I had a staggering nightmare. Okay, that really I went around in circles, and it finally dawned on me that my dislike, my disappointment in what the human race is doing to itself, as in, let's propagate a staggering amount of how much you're going to fear, how much struggle you're going to go through, how everything is hopeless. We have to wait for God to come down here, the God who gave us free will and free choice, but not freedom from consequence. We got to wait for him to come down here and straighten out our own self-imposed mess. Or let's wait for the governments who have been known to mislead, to understate, to misdirect in people for literally centuries, ever since governments were invented. When are they going to come forth and tell you what to believe that makes sense? Well, if you don't believe them in the first place, why are you waiting for them now? Do not believe me. Whatever you do, do not take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay, am I going to tell you that I'm here to guide you to a better life? And oh, by the way, if you want to follow me, absolutely follow me. I've got this great big compound out in the middle of nowhere. Now, I speak of peace. So out in the middle of nowhere where you can't get to me, I've got a fenced-in compound where we've got lots of weapons to protect you. In a world of love, why do you need 8,000 guns lining the fence? Why? I'm not about to tell you that. You want to get to talk to me, that's no problem. For those of you going to Reno, I'll be happy to talk to you. Okay, on the 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th of next month. Okay, I will talk to you face to face. You can ask me what you will. Yeah. Ellie goes, that sounds like a way in, not a way out. You know, I'd love to find a way out. I really would. But I have come to the conclusion I'm here for the duration. And since I've already accomplished 2 out of 3 of the goals that I set out for myself when I was a child, I had 3 goals. Get off this planet. Check. Done. Should have said don't come back. But, you know, find peace of mind. Finally got it. It's not perfect, but I know what I'm here for. I know what I brought to the table. Okay. Philip, that's terrible. Philip said the guns are to feed the gun-eating gnomes. Rest assured, gnomes don't need guns. But, I desire to find peace of mind. Well, it's not perfect. I still go through, as I think it was Joseph put it, I'm not perfect, but I am doing my best. But I now know exactly where I'm heading. I am building an empire. I'm going to light the way as best I can for as many people to follow along as possible. And this is one of the reasons why, on the back of all of my self-help books, you'll find this. Okay. For those of you that have this brilliant idea of, but you got to watch for copyright images. I'm not entirely certain, but I think this gives me the right. Just a guess. Okay. And yes, it actually does plug in. I just don't have the plug out for it. Okay. It actually lights. But what I did come to the conclusion of was I'm here to light a path. That's what I came back here for. It's what I've come here before multiple times. Okay, it's just this time I'm coming right out of the gates and going, okay, I'm not doing this on my own. Ken, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I know your day's been hectic. One of the things that we got to remember, if you're going down a path that isn't working, and rest assured I've gone down my fair share, I have now made a very solid decision. The advertising I was putting out for my books, for my teachings, I am stopping all of it. Okay, I'm literally stopping all of it because none of it is paid off. And I was just talking to my brother today, and like I told him, none of it paid off. So I'm not doing it anymore. And the reality is this. Take a look at whatever path you're on, whatever project you're working on. Ask yourself, is the path you're following, is the method you're using, is it working? If not, time to cut your losses and start moving in a different direction. Now, contrary to what I was taught, and contrary to probably what you were taught, okay, I found out a real neat little setup. If you are putting less calories into your body than what you're burning, you will drop weight. You won't drop it at 30 pounds a month. Patience, it didn't get that weight before, in one night. Okay. It likely will take a little time to get over it. The neat part about it is when I am starting to work on this as well. Okay. One of the neat parts about it is that whatever you're aiming for, if it's not working, if you've been, let's say I've been spending years at it. Well, guys, I spent from 1986 to now, in other words, 40 years, striving to do things the way everybody else said they should be done. I'm telling you, it's time to walk away from that path. I'm not going down that road anymore. I'm not going down this road that says, I'm going to put my life on hold to make sure everybody comes along. All I'm doing is going, let's turn the lights on and go, hey guys, just a thought. There's a hole in that floor of that hallway you're walking down. You might want to step off to the side. I flick the lights on, point the hole out, and I walk away. If at that point you decide to walk into that hole, I'm no longer going to be going, oh, but, I've really got to take care of you. No, I really don't. There are people that I will put on priority. Okay. And those few people know that I absolutely trust what they have said. I trust their word because every time they've told me it, or almost every time, they've followed through with it. Okay. There are certain people that I chose to bring into this world and will be taken care of. Absolutely. And they take priority over everybody. Except me. Okay. This trip I'm making to Reno, that is for me. That is not to help anybody else. Although I will do what I can to help people while I'm down there. But the more aware you are of you, when I go off-world, when I go up to the consortium flagship, I don't go up there and go, hey, I'm the best. Look at me. I don't like the height of being on a pedestal. So I'm not one. I'm not better than you are. I'm not more in depth than you are. Yes, I've got a different set of skills. I'm absolutely a specialist in alien races and alien technologies. But let us be realistic. I question, is this just my imagination, or is it experience that I'm finally found a way to express? And much more importantly, does it matter which one is which if it helps bring a sense of peace and a sense of purpose to people's lives, especially my own? Okay, I've got a staggering amount of information like you do. I've got a staggering amount of information stuck up here. Okay, if I don't get it onto physical paper before I die, it's gone. I should say before I die for the last time. Now, for those of you that are going to be in Reno, okay, especially if you're planning on being down there and you want to get together over dinner or something to that effect, I've got one of two options. There are only 12 meals that I'm going to be open for. Okay, 3 on the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Okay, but that said, okay, on those meals, whether I have them with one person or whether I sit down at a table with a whole pile of people, that remains to be seen. Just if you're expecting to, whatever you expect of yourself, set the bar as high as you possibly can. Okay, but make sure whenever you're looking in business, it is absolutely critical that money becomes a side effect, not a drive, not a goal. I gotta ask Philip, that because I don't remember the song, but who actually sang that one? See, I remember the Carpenters singing Up, Up with People. Very important. Okay, very powerful song. You know, and I do find some of the older songs bring incredible messages. The ones today I haven't listened to a lot, but many of them, I mean, there are some that are brilliant. Oh, whoa, that is absolutely fantastic. 235 pounds at 6'5". Well, I will tell you this, Woo. When we meet in Reno, I will look up to you. That may have something to do with I'm only 5'8". Okay. Matter of fact, might be 5'9", but 205 is a target. You know, that's really handy from my end, because when I get to Reno, I get to actually get an image of what that looks like. Okay, because I'll tell you, visualizing it, I can look in the mirror. I know I've got about 40 pounds of extra bone. Oh, there we are. Philip goes, Elton John, Dionne Warwick, and Stevie Wonder. Well, Stevie Wonder and... Yeah, not quite. See, I was told there, Joseph. Well, I was told that I would never learn to, if I ever learned to tie my shoelaces, I was ahead of the game. Or more to the point, Mom was told. So I solved the problem. You know, it's the lace problem I don't have. Oh, Gladys Knight. There we go. I appreciate that, Philip. Oh, here we are. Oh, absolutely, Joseph. Do enjoy. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I really do appreciate it. And by the way, the articles that you've sent have been moved into a file for future use in Positive Perspectives. They won't obviously all come out in one, but I've got them all moved aside so I can find them. You know, I really do appreciate the support. You know, something we have to realize, whether you're on this planet or not, okay, it is absolutely critical you realize that as you get to know you, as you gain confidence in your own ability by experiential evidence. In other words, if you desire to accomplish something, put the effort into it. As you successfully do it, you will gain automatically more, gain more belief and more faith in yourself to be able to do these things. Net result, you'll carry that belief with you and you'll be able to show it to other people. Now, where are we here? I do believe, we are. We're just looking at what our time is. Ellie's doing a phenomenal job of making sure that I stay on top of what time we are. Okay, one thing we have to remember. Okay, and again, if you haven't done so already, if you like this stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing if you would, please. Okay, because the reality of it is this. When we work together, when we cross-communicate like this is how we are going to change this world from what it is today. And quite literally, in my eyes, a fearful, greed-driven, lack-induced society into something very positive, very prosperous, without greed, without jealousy, without fear, without greed, without jealousy, without the panic, okay, We are going to be able to, without war, there we go. That was what I was looking for. Okay, we are going to make this a better world. Now, yes, I do not desire to be on a pedestal, but I got no problem carrying the banner and saying, let's move forward and make this a better world. Let's start a pandemic. That pandemic being smile at your neighbor. Say hello to your neighbor. Say hello to yourself first thing in the morning. Okay, any of these things, or more to the point, all of them combined are absolutely going to help put things in perspective. Okay, do I have my shortfalls? Absolutely. And if you do take the time to actually get to know me, okay, and get to meet me in person, I don't talk quite as much with my hands because usually I've got a coffee cup I'm hanging on to. Okay, there was a time when it wasn't a coffee cup. But if this is the time, as in today, now, not 6 months down the road, although I would love it if this continued day in and day out for the next 6 months. You just think about it. We go 6 months. Now, let's see, just give you a real rough idea. According to what I've got right now, and I'm not going to I'm not going to refresh. But if I just take the 615, if everybody were to just bring one person a day to the stream, just one, just to listen in, just to subscribe, at everybody bringing one person a day to the stream, okay, we take 650 is what I've got for listed subscribers, multiplied by 6 months, which is 180. If everybody were to bring one person a day to listen to the stream, okay, never mind the new people doing it, just the original 615, we would be looking at, by the end of 6 months, we would be looking at 110,700 subscribers that are choosing to listen to Positive Perceptions, a podcast that talks about the things we can accomplish, the things we are capable of doing, and the prosperity we can bring to the table. As compared, now that's a drop in the bucket, given the billions that are listening to people going, oh, we're all going to die, we're all going to be shortfall, we're going to have shortages of food, etc., etc. It's a drop in the bucket. But you take that same 615 and we go, let's see, if we take 2 years, we'd be looking at 365, 670. Nope, that's wrong. 720, I think. $365 times 2, 730. Okay, times 615. You run that same path, and we've got almost 500 million people in 2 years, with people only telling one person a day to come to the stream and listen in and take that message out to the world at large. This is what I'm aiming at. Yeah, I am Mr. Nobody. I am just this individual out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, very overstated, very pig-headed. Absolutely, you might call me egocentric. You may well call me that. I'm certainly not politically correct. But this is the goal I have for myself and all of you. Money is not the goal. Now, don't get me wrong. I do like money. I like the finer things in life. Okay. And I will have them. I'm going to have the best of the best. And that said, as long as my other half doesn't turn me down, she'll be ranked right up there amongst it. Okay. But when we look at this world, we have to realize it is up to you, not anybody out there, not anybody up there, not anybody back there. It is up to you. So quit looking around the room for somebody else. You're the one that controls whether your life is going to start changing for the better. Now, the people in this chat room have been phenomenal in supporting each other and myself. And I cannot thank you enough for that. Okay. But we are going to take positive perspectives, the free newsletter, and turn it into a major going concern. Where is my... number of things on my list I got to get to as soon as I get done the stream. And we are down to the 10-minute mark. So again, guys, any of the books I've talked about, okay, absolutely, if I've written them, I'm the only place you can get them. Right here, right through that, at the top of the stream, the Buy Me a Coffee link, all the books are available. But again, I'm coming down, not next week, but the week after. I'll be down in Reno. If you would like one of the books that I've got, and you're hoping to avoid the shipping costs, and you're going to be in Reno, drop me a line. I will bring it with me, and I will write the shipping cost off, because I just can't afford the shipping costs to start with. Okay, so that's just the way that's going to go. Now, the other neat little option I've got here, okay, is that with the other 2 trips I'm planning on making to the States, I will do exactly the same thing if I know ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm looking at ways of getting around things. But it boils down to this. Whether you believe you can get to know you and you can change your world for the better, or you believe you can't. Okay, I will tell you, inevitably, you're likely to prove yourself right. Now, I mentioned this to somebody the other day, and I made a comment that people got really upset, that some people are going to get upset about. Okay, everything that is holding you back, whether it is a physical disability or a mental blockage. Okay, physical disabilities, it boils down to you learn to work with them, figure out what you can do, make adjustments. 90% of the mental dysfunctions people run into can be corrected through proper training, proper diet. Okay, medication helps. Do not get me wrong. Okay, the thing with medication is you've got to know what it is. You've got to ask the questions. But utilizing all of this in conjunction, okay, this is what we can do. This is what we've got to do. If we do not desire this society to go back into the Dark Ages, and I mean Dark Ages, I don't mean in the Middle Ages where we had, houses. I mean back before any sort of metalworking was invented, was understood, was looked at, way back to the Stone Age. Unless you're planning on going back to that point, it may be wise to start working together, drawing on everybody's experience, everybody's knowledge base, and start to work to make this a better world for virtually everybody. This is just the reality of it. Now, I am a firm believer, if we stay on the path we are currently on, if society stays on the path that the massive majority of people are on, this society will burn itself to the ground. If, however, we take this little tiny pocket of people, 615 subscribers right now, and we push the limits of our envelope and make it expand, we can, over the next few years, make a phenomenal difference in a lot of people's lives. Now, this was done several times over the past. What do you think it's going to look like if we start this ball rolling properly now? What do you think this world is going to look like in 1,000 years? Okay. assuming we don't bomb ourselves back to the Stone Age, how much of a paradise can we, working together, looking at all the things we can accomplish, what kind of a paradise look can we really have, not only on Earth, but in the galaxy and the planets around us? Okay, with all this in mind, thank you so much for sharing your time with me, guys. I will be back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow we're going to look at self-awareness, and we're going to go into literally creative manifestation. We're going to give you the tools to make your life better, starting literally when we get on site. Okay. We are coming down to the end. I do want to say thank you so much for your time with me. Thus, thank you so much for all of your support. I will see you again. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.